5 people were killed in the last 24 hours when army shells struck residential areas in the city centre. Roman Kostorov's there. He reports.
The war continues here in the east of Ukraine, and on Wednesday morning the shelling of residential areas of the city of Donetsk had resumed as well. Multiple areas have been affected, and I have a very long list of various apartment buildings that have been destroyed. And right now let's take a look at the consequences of what happened here on Tuesday. Residents in Donetsk live in constant fear for their lives and those of their loved ones. But as their experiences prove time and again, the rockets can come at any time.
Где вы прятались?
Здесь. Больше не нахожу места. Никакого. В этом доме.
The district emergencies ministry chief says it was near impossible to perform their duties to save people's lives.
The yard outside just took an incoming. There are 9-story apartment buildings located in this neighborhood, plus a kindergarten and a grocery store. Those are high-voltage transmission cables just outside our station. They've been severed and are now hanging low right there. And we can't go outside right now because of the massive barrage.
According to official UN figures, nearly 5,000 civilians have lost their lives in the east of Ukraine. Those numbers seem far from final.
Atmosphere in Donetsk remains tense. Shelling of the city, shelling of residential area continues. This area has just been hit. Actually, this house has been hit twice over the past several months. There are no definite information about dead or injured people. Both sides accuse each other of indiscriminate shelling of residential areas, and unfortunately residential areas, schools, kindergartens, houses are being turned into battlefields. People do suffer. Most of them say that they have to stay here and they have to live in the houses without heating, without electricity. But, as they say, they have no other choice.
Голодуем, что даст гуманитарки нету, ни пенсии, ничего нету, понимаешь?
А почему не уедете?
А куда я донбассовская, и муж донбассовский, куда мы уедем? Сын в больнице лежит, перепухнется.
Не страшно вам?
Страшновато, страшновато. Живем мир и покой, и все, больше ничего не хотим видеть.
As fights in Donetsk region intensify, shelling comes closer and closer to the center of Donetsk and to the center of other densely populated cities.
خليه مفتوح. في جرحى؟ وين ضربت هون كمان؟ في شيء هنا؟ الله أكبر. نيك ضاربة كمان ما؟ الله أكبر.
The governments of Cameroon, Chad, Niger, Nigeria and Benin have agreed to establish an 8,700-man force to take on Boko Haram. The aim of the combined mission is to wipe out the group in 6 weeks by Nigeria's rescheduled election on the 28th of March. Troops from Chad are already fighting inside remote northeastern Nigerian territory and claim to have killed hundreds of Boko Haram fighters last week. General Ahmad Daribazim says our defense forces are always one step ahead of our enemies. We're ready to confront them. They're just bandits, small-time thugs. It's a criminal sect, not an army that respects international conventions. Since 2009, the conflict has claimed more than 13,000 lives. At the weekend, the militants raided a prison in Difa, southeast Niger, but were driven off. An explosion claimed lives in a local market. On Sunday, 20 bus passengers in the far north of Cameroon were kidnapped and 12 of them executed before the rest were let go. In propaganda online, Boko Haram mocks the West African multinational force initiative. The United States estimates the Islamists may have 6,000 fighters. Leader Abu Bakr Shakau said, "You send 7,000 troops, send 7 million. The Nigerian army has been ineffective against Boko Haram for 6 years.
Chad and Niger have launched a joint military operation against Boko Haram in Nigeria. The Sunni militant group has expanded cross-border raids, spurring Nigeria's neighbours to retaliate. The new military campaign comes after suspected Boko Haram insurgents killed at least 50 people in bomb attacks in Maiduguri, the city they want as the capital of an Islamist state. In Chad, the group is said to be behind the destruction in this village, its first attack inside the country. Militants apparently opened fire on residents and burned their homes. Boko Haram has pledged allegiance to ISIL, which rules a self-declared caliphate in parts of Iraq and Syria. Nigeria is now pleading for more international help to battle the militancy.
Over 100 American armoured vehicles have rolled into Latvia as NATO steps up its military activity just 300 kilometres from the Russian border. The move has been described by a senior US military official as a demonstration of the ability to deter the threat from Moscow. The US has also announced it's sending about 3,000 soldiers to Eastern Europe for training exercises. NATO's been frequently conducting military drills in the region for the past year, flexing its military muscles on Russia's doorstep. Now, this is last weekend's show of military hardware in Estonia, with NATO combat vehicles and soldiers taking part. A train loaded with US equipment also arrived in neighbouring Lithuania in January, as US troops stepped up their training there. While here's another train loaded with military cargo from Washington, spotted in Latvia last December. And here's Poland last April, playing host to massive NATO exercises.
As Syria approaches the 4th anniversary of the uprising that morphed into a civil war, the fighting remains as fierce as ever. New amateur video appears to show the battle for Doreen, a town in the Latakia countryside. The Syrian army took Doreen from the Nusra Front and other groups a week ago, but Nusra fighters on Wednesday claimed to have expelled the army from the city. Reuters cannot independently verify the video, which was posted on social media. Meanwhile, in Daraa, video appears to show the Free Syrian Army targeting forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad. The city was among those where peaceful protests kicked off 4 years ago. In the north, Kurdish fighters are battling the ultra-radical Islamic State. The amateur video appears to show the two groups fighting for control of territory near the Syrian-Turkish border. A monitoring group says fighting on Wednesday between the two left dozens dead, adding to the 200,000 killed in the increasingly bloody conflict.
Not a lot being talked about when it comes to Syria right now, or Ukraine in the headlines, majorly. So this is when you want to keep tabs on the operations on the ground. And right now, as I've reported several different videos here, massive buildup in all these different countries, sending armored vehicles, Humvees, tanks, equipment, now troops for training into Ukraine, into Poland, Latvia, Estonia, all these Baltic states. And we've seen some of the past drills that they've carried. Now, some of these drills that we've seen are now annual drills that they carry out all the time. In both Bulgaria and the U.S. being NATO members, they've come together and they said in the next 3 months, we're going to be launching massive drills. Now, this is following these recent drills, Operation Sea Breeze in the Black Sea, and the shipment of 100 U.S. armored vehicles to Latvia. Now, there's about 350 U.S. officers, as well as tanks, helicopters, armored personnel carriers, all arriving for these bilateral drills. Now, they are set to begin Sunday. They will be conducted at the Novo Selo training range in southeastern Bulgaria. The U.S. spent about $30 million to modernize Bulgaria's military infrastructure. So they've already spent the money when nobody was paying attention to bulk this place up. And like I said, Romania, Poland, now Ukraine, loaded down with troops and equipment in these regions right here on the doorstep of Russia. So you also have these drills coming back up like Rapid Trident. Well, the war drums continue to beat louder and louder, especially in this area around Ukraine. Now, when it comes to Poland, they are key in this whole push toward Russia. Everything happening here on Russia's doorstep, so to speak, with the United States and NATO, Poland is just crucial to these guys. Not only do they have one of the larger armies in the region, but they have more equipment than other countries as well. In the region, I think it's Ukraine, Poland, and then Romania, right there when it comes to those immediate countries around this Baltic region. And what we have now is their defense minister coming out and saying, we want all of our reserve forces to turn up for military exercises immediately. So they're calling up reservists. Like I said, the war drum's getting louder in the area. And not only do they have every single military installation in the area in movement here and taking part of all these drills and exercises along with the United States through all these countries, and also the Czechs were told not to throw food and eggs at the convoy, the U.S. convoy, it was going through their country. They said they don't want to see it. They don't want to see the tanks in their country. They were throwing food and eggs and all that. Of course, they're not going to say that in the mainstream media. They want everyone to think that they're wanted there and welcome. And it's just not the case when it comes to the people in the streets there showing how much they want them there or not wanting them there. But Poland, you know, they gave out these army manuals and all this other stuff before, along with these other countries. Now they're pulling this big move here, calling up all reservists, any male between the ages of 18 and 60 with a satisfactory medical history.
Allahu Akbar!
اهدأوا يا شباب صلاة النبي.
فات